All right, guys, before we get started, a big thank you to our partner, Microsoft Windows 11, the official operating system of the NFL and the exclusive sponsor of the LA Chargers. The all-new Windows 11, they're here to bring you closer to what you love, like the Chargers and the final drive. Learn about all the awesome new features of Windows 11 at windows.com. And welcome in to a winning edition of the final drive. For Hayley Elwood, I'm Chris Hayre. Chargers beat the Broncos 34-13. And guess what? Week 18, Chargers Raiders, winner goes to the postseason. Everything fell the Chargers' way before the game, Hayley. They took care of business. And here we go. Sunday night in Vegas.
Yeah, wow. I mean, what a day in and of itself, just starting with those 10 a.m. games where it really felt like the Ravens were in control of that game until the Rams kind of came back furiously at the end there to get the win, which ultimately ended up helping the Chargers and to a point, the Raiders as well. I mean, the Raiders also took care of their business to get to this game in week 18, but just, I think, a really complete performance overall from the Chargers in this win over the Denver Broncos, which is something that was missing, obviously, the previous week in Houston against the Texans. But every phase, from offense, from defense, which I know Brandon Staley said it was, one of the first times they had their full starting secondary back, which was great and certainly made an impact. And then you look at what Andre Roberts did on special teams too, and the impact that he had there. So just a really complete performance overall, which is what you want to have as you get into this final week of the regular season in a must-win game, in a game that really means everything to get you into the postseason. Everyone said last week, the playoffs start against Denver. I mean, that's the mindset you got to have, because that's certainly what's on the table this week against Vegas for sure.
We will talk about Justin Herbert and his record. But I wanted to start with the defense because there was two glaring issues against the Houston Texans. Third down defense, Davis Mills and company were 9 of 13, and rushing defense, 189 yards they allowed to the Texans on the ground. Getting your guys back seems to matter, right? Getting Joey Bosa and Justin Jones and Derwin James back in the lineup. The Broncos were 3 of 11 on third down, and the combination of Williams and Gordon, 83 rushing yards. I thought the defense needed to respond. Even the guys who weren't on the field, it took a collective effort Sunday against the Broncos to show this is the defense that we can be. Because that duo of Williams and Gordon, I know they were shut down the week before in Vegas, but they've been one of the best duos in all the NFL, and the Chargers were able to bottle them up.
It's a really good tandem right there. I mean, we saw them previously in the season and what they were able to do against this Chargers defense. But really, I think when you look at kind of what Brandon Staley said last night, he said the run defense impacted the third down defense, and then the secondary performed at a high level. So it's really all of those units working together and coming together. You think of that goal line stand that Justin Jones was really single-handedly almost responsible for on that third. Yeah, just the impact that he makes up front is huge. And I think last week, he's a big piece of this defensive line and their ability to stop the run. And when you go back to last week against Houston, you obviously think of guys like Joey who were out, but he's his presence was certain, or lack of presence was certainly felt there as well. It was really just a very complete effort overall. And again, I kind of go back to just looking at what Staley said last night and just the way that all those kind of units ended up working together to really make their entire defensive unit work at the utmost potential that they had. And that was really, pleasant to see and great to see. And especially when you get a good test of a really, really good running back tandem in this league against, like you mentioned, Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon with the Broncos. So really good effort there. And I think, again, just really positive, because you didn't want to have to end your season on the note that you left in Houston. You want to obviously get better. It's something Brandon Staley has said this entire year: play your best football at the end. So if you can put a performance like this together, hopefully that catapults you to something really great next week against the Raiders.
I should mention 10 of those 83 yards were Drew Lock. So the combination of Gordon and Williams, just 73 yards on the ground. And, we did this exactly a week ago, and I know people were upset with that performance in Houston. What a difference a week makes in the NFL, right? I mean, and what a difference getting your guys back means. And I tell you this, if just Joey or just Derwin or just Mike Williams was in that Houston game, perhaps it would have been a little bit different. Offensively, it was good to see Austin Eckler back in the mix. His 8th 100-yard game in terms of a total yards from scrimmage. He had a touchdown. Mike Williams, 3 for 63, the 45-yard bomb, the record breaker for Justin Herbert. Think about this, Hayley. You go from Drew Brees to Phillip Rivers to Justin Herbert, and in Justin Herbert's second year with the team, he passes Phillip Rivers for touchdown passes in a single season.
It's crazy to me to think that Phillip also never threw more than 34 in a given season, in a single season. I mean, granted, though, when he was kind of when he took the reins of these Chargers offenses, you had guys like LaDainian Tomlinson.
I thought about that.
Yeah.
We just did this whole running for history, but I had the same thought. And then I was like, okay, wait, hold on. LT had all those touchdowns too.
Right.
And he did play in an era with some pretty good running backs.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's part of it, but it is crazy to look back at that and only go 34, huh? But I'm telling you, I've said this on some other podcasts and things that we've done, some other people. When you look at franchises, you look at the Niners, you look at the Packers, and you can look at the Chargers now, and you just look at the fact that you were so lucky. Chargers fans are so fortunate, and this franchise is so fortunate to go from someone like Phillip Rivers to someone like Justin Herbert, who is still just lighting it up in his second season, setting records every week. I mean, I just did a podcast with the Texans a couple weeks ago, and she mentioned all the DPC who is our counterpart, mentioned all the great things that Herbert's done. And I said, I'm not rolling my eyes, but it is crazy. It feels like every week there is a new accolade that he achieves that just has never been done before. And it's true. It's absolutely true. So yeah, to hit 35 and it's kind of nice. I'll say this too, to hit it in the 16th game of the season. So it wasn't like you had the cheater game at the end.
It wasn't, there's no asterisk next to it,
There's
right?
no asterisk next to it, given the fact that you have an extra week this season. It was done in the same amount of time that anyone else prior to the 2021 season had. So huge congrats to Justin. This franchise is just so lucky with what he's able to do and just what the future holds for him too.
I know it's only year 2 and he doesn't want any of the credit or the accolades. He loves to deflect. And, I think it's a pretty cool quality out of your franchise quarterback to not really want the attention of the records and making it all about the team. And, honestly, they scored 34 points. I think that they could play better. I really think that they're going to have to play a little bit better against the Raiders to win and get into the postseason. We'll get into that Raiders matchup, but just looking at some of the guys who have kind of been consistent all year. And one of those guys, Kaiser White, nobody has more tackles since 2006 than Kaiser White when it comes to being a Charger. Donnie Edwards, right? Kaiser is all over the field all the time. And I think he's a guy we don't talk about a lot. And he deserves his proper due, just his consistency this year and what he's meant to that linebacking core, Hayley.
He also had a really big job yesterday with no Drew Tranquill, no Kenneth Murray, given the injuries and the COVID protocol. So to do what he did still and make an impact like that is absolutely huge. And he's really, really come along. He's actually someone, I think, when you look at how this defense has changed with Brandon Staley at the helm, it's really, really benefited him and his time in this league. And I know that he's dealt with some injuries too throughout his first few years with this team and whatnot, but he really, really has made strides this year. And he's certainly making an impact. And again, in a game where you're kind of the guy, the other two guys who you usually play with are not there. And to do what he did was definitely big and big congrats to him for sure.
All right, let's just talk about week 18 now. Let's get to it. Sunday Night Football. Raiders, Chargers, winner gets in. I don't think the league could have scripted it better. Sunday Night Football certainly could have scripted it better. Your initial thoughts as we get into Raider week here.
This is a really big game, and it's a big game because obviously of the implications and everything like that. I don't want to say any of us felt like the Raiders were just kind of going to go away, but they haven't. They have earned the place just like the Chargers have to be in this position to win and get in. And you can't count them out. You can't, you can go back and look at week 4 and it is crazy how much football and how much trajectory of the season has changed since that week 4 game where the Chargers won 28-14 and really were in control for most of that game, certainly the first half, if you go back and look at that. But this is just a really, really big game. It's interesting too, because of the divisional aspect to it. And that's why the NFL does this. They always stack these games at the end and hope that, something like this does play out, that you have a play in essentially. But this is just one of those games. I know that they beat the Colts, obviously, in week 17. It was not pretty. Derek Carr, I believe, had just one touchdown with 2 interceptions, but they got the job done. And I think that's kind of what you've seen from this team throughout the season. And you've seen from this defense as well, is that they've been able to get it done, to get to a point where they're also 9-7 and they have an opportunity to get into the playoffs. So this is just a really big game from a lot of different angles, but you have to look at this Raiders team and not count them out. And that they're going to come in with a fight too. And it's their home stadium. They have been through a lot this season off the field specifically.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's going to be a very emotional game as well for all sides, but this is a huge, huge matchup, and just kind of fun though, that you've got the AFC West thing to go, to boot with it, because these Chargers Raiders games, I mean, again, I think of when you and I were doing all those running for history interviews, and it was like, that was that was the rival, that was the division, the divisional rival, when you go back to those kind of early mid 2000s Chargers teams. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun because you obviously think of the Chiefs and you think of, the rivalry there now with Patrick Mahomes, but this is a good one because this is for, I think it was Justin Jones or Uchenna, someone tweeted, all the marbles. This is it.
Yeah.
Win and get in.
It's for all the marbles. And that Raiders team in the 2000s, they weren't very good. And it's like the Chargers beat up on them pretty consistently. So I remember week 4, the Monday night game, it was the first game that both teams entered the game above 500 since 2002. So this will be the second time since 2002. You go back, the only time they ever met in the postseason was 1981. Raiders beat the Chargers in 1981. This is the closest thing to a playoff game that you're going to have between the Chargers and the Raiders. Yeah. So you could argue this is the biggest Chargers-Raiders matchup in 40 years. And all the storylines to boot, right? We got a lot of former Chargers on the other side, and Denzel Perryman and Casey Hayward and Gus Bradley and Coach Milo, and list goes on and on. Phylon, Square, Teamer. I mean,
Richard Smith.
It's going to be like, it's one of those games where the rivalry gets fans excited, and the buzz around leading up to Sunday is what football's all about, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you don't have the buzz throughout the week, what does the game really matter? This is something that I think fans are going to be really excited about throughout the week, because it's winning you're in, and to beat a division rival to get into the tournament makes it that much sweeter.
Oh yeah, that much sweeter for sure. And that, whatever happens, if you do get in, you're going to have to go on the road. That's what, what your path to back to SoFi, I guess, if you will, is going to be. You're going to have to go on the road. So it's a good challenge, because that environment, I'm sure, is going to be just crazy. Neither of us has been there yet, but I can't even imagine what that Vegas stadium is like with fans, and especially with Raiders fans who know that there's a playoff berth on the line. And I'm sure actually you'll probably get a good amount of Chargers fans there too. It's Vegas. It's, who wouldn't want to go to Vegas? And this game actually means a ton. But this is a really good test, just in terms of knowing that if you do get that wild card spot, you're going to have to go on the road. And again, it really starts this week. It started last week, certainly against Denver this past Sunday, but it really, really starts this week in terms of just getting that mindset of like, we got to go into an opponent's house, enemy territory, and just get the job done.
You're 100% right. It's a great point, because it's almost like this is a playoff game. This is what you will have to do the following week if you do win. You're going to have to go on the road a few times to get back to SoFi, that path back to SoFi, like you said. And I look at some of the wins that the Chargers have had on the road this year, starting at Arrowhead, really. I mean, you could say starting in Washington, but really the big game in Arrowhead. Look at what the Philadelphia Eagles have done since that Chargers game. They have turned it on. So it was not easy for the Chargers to go into Philadelphia and win that game. It was not easy for the Chargers to go into Cincinnati and win a game against a Bengals team who everybody's talking about right now as being the hottest team in the AFC. Deservedly so, because they just took down the Chiefs and did it in an emphatic fashion with Jamar Chase and the way he played. But basically what I'm saying is the Chargers have been battle tested on the road. And I think they have those experiences to harken back to. And this is a game against the Raiders that you know this team as well as any team in the NFL. And God, I can't wait for it. I really like, you go from a game last week in Houston where there was really no energy and there was so much uncertainty with who was going to play. And, you hope with all the COVID protocols that a majority of the guys are in on both sides now, but like it's playoff football before the playoffs start.
And you mentioned like you can't wait. And unfortunately, but in a good way, there's going to be a long period of waiting because it's the Sunday night game, which is the right move. It absolutely had to be on
waiting
Sunday
all day.
Waiting all day. As Carrie Underwood says, waiting all day, all week, all through Saturday, because there's 2 games on Saturday this week too. But hey, week 18, a lot of fun. But no, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's just you really kind of can't ask for anything more given that you have an opportunity to win and get in and to do it against a team, like you said, that you know really well. Both these teams know each other very, very well. It's going to be interesting if there are any sort of like wrinkles that either team kind of throws out and sort of, does to sort of throw the other off their game. But it's going to be a good one. It's really going to be a good one. Like I said, the NFL does this for a reason. They stack these divisional games at the end of the season for a reason. And to have everything go the Chargers' way in week 17 for the help that they needed. And again, to the Raiders' credit as well. And both teams got the job done on their own. And to get to this point, it's going to be awesome. And hopefully next week we'll have a winning edition. But until then, it's just going to be a really, really fun week of preparation and getting ready. And you hope with these COVID protocols, you hope all these teams are as healthy as they can be going into this one too. But I will say, that adjustment that they made last week certainly helped the Chargers, certainly helped some other teams as well get to this point. But it's going to be a good one. Week 18. Hey, I'll go back to what Dan Fouts told me and what I mentioned last week on this podcast. It's an opportunity. This is a huge, huge opportunity. This bonus game is an opportunity for a lot of teams, and to have it mean something is really, really special.
And we'll have you covered all week, diving into this matchup with Playmakers and Chargers Weekly, getting you set for Sunday Night Football. Like you said, it's going to be a good one. We'll leave it at that. For Hayley Elwood, I'm Chris Hayre. This has been The Final Drive, presented by Windows 11.